Have you ever wondered how we measure time in our lives? Birthdays, anniversaries, job titles, they're all ideas we agree on, right? But what makes them real? Today, we're going back in time to see a king and a wise elder tackle this very puzzle. It's called the Vassa question. The question relate to time. Let's listen in. The king had just listened carefully to the elder, Lord Nāgasena. He had a follow-up question.
Venerable Sir, how many Vassas? How many years since your higher ordination?
May you be blessed, great king. I have completed 7 years.
Now in truth, Lord Nāgasena had lived as a samanera for many years before that, but he counts only the years since his ordination as a bhikkhu. Thus, it is 7 years.
Venerable Sir, are you the 7 years, or is it the 7 years that make up you?
At that very moment, Lord Nāgasena noticed something perfect nearby, a clear glass vessel filled with pure, still water. The king's reflection was crystal clear on its surface, a teaching moment.
Your Majesty, a simple question. Which is the true king? The image you see in the water, or the one sitting before it?
Venerable Sir, the one sitting here before you is the true king. The reflection in the water is not me, but it depends entirely on me. If I were not here, that reflection would not exist.
Just so, Your Majesty. My 7 years are no different from yours. The number 7 arises because this very person, the one sitting before you, has lived through 7 years. Just as your reflection depends on you, the idea of 7 years depends entirely on this individual body and mind, means depends entirely on the 5 khandha that experience those 7 years.
The entire assembly listened intently. The king was deeply impressed.
Venerable Sir, your comparison is exquisite, a point of the highest subtlety. I now have no doubt. You are indeed a wise and discerning one, fully accomplished in understanding.
I also want to explain this in relation to panyati, conceptual designation, and paramattha, ultimate reality. In this year's related issue, it helps all students of Dhamma understand that time arises only because there are the 5 khandhas, beings such as men, women, animals, ghosts, hell beings, devas, brahmas, even Buddhas, and identities like American, Chinese, and all such labels only exist conventionally because the 5 khandhas are present. It is precisely because of these 5 khandhas that we can speak of ourselves, others, and so on. And because the 5 khandhas exist, we can speak of time past, present, and future. If there were no 5 khandhas, there would be no time at all. This is a point that Buddhists should contemplate more deeply along with the qualities of nibbana. The Buddha declared nibbana to be kala vimutta, freed from time. Why is nibbana free from time? Because nibbana is free from the khandhas, since it has nothing to do with the 3 periods of time past, present, future. It is called kala vimutta, freed from time, and khandha vimutta, freed from the aggregates. Thus, when Lord Nāgasena says, I have completed 7 years, he is referring not to a self, but to the counting based on the 5 khandhas that have persisted through that duration of life. Further explain, we experience the world through these 5 components, known as the khandhas. Your physical form, your feelings, your recognition of things, your thoughts and habits, and your conscious awareness. Because this collection exists and continues, we can talk about you, me, her, him, or any being at all. And because this collection continues from one moment to the next, we invent the idea of time past, present, and future. Think of it like a movie. A movie needs film frames moving through the projector to create a story with a beginning, middle, and end. No frames, no movie time. Our khandhas are like those frames. If they weren't here, rolling forward, there would be no timeline to measure. This is why the ultimate goal, nibbana, is described as freed from time. Because nibbana is freed from these 5 components, it's beyond the film strip. Since it's beyond the ever-changing components, it's also beyond past, present, and future. It doesn't age. It doesn't come or go. It's liberated from the very things that create the clock. So when the elder said, I have completed 7 years, he was using our shared human clock, a clock that ticks only because his body and mind were there to experience it. Every measure of time, a human lifespan, the long life of a celestial being, even the tuna 566 years since the Buddha's final passing. All of that is just us counting the rise and fall of these components in the world. But nibbana itself, it has no age. It wasn't born. It doesn't get old. It's outside of the calendar. So here's the profound insight from the Vassa question. The variability to count years, days, or seconds depends entirely on these 5 components running their course. If they weren't here, there would be no one to measure and nothing to measure with. Birth, aging, sickness, death, this is just what we call the drama of these components arising and passing away. As long as we're tangled up in them, we're stuck in the cycle. But Nibbana is without these components. Therefore it cannot be touched by death. Death only finishes the components. Nibbana is the peace that remains when the movie ends and the screen is silent and still. Understanding this isn't just philosophy, it's essential. You can't let go of something you don't see. And you see this not by forcing it, but through the calm, clear insight that comes from sincere practice. It shows us what we're really looking for, not more time, but freedom from time itself. Now the wise elder Venerable Nāgasena and King Milinda. The king gets straight to the big question.
Venerable Sir of such excellence, what is the supreme benefit of your going forth of living this holy life?
Your Majesty, the highest benefit is this: to uproot the suffering built into this five khanda, and to prevent new suffering from ever arising again. Furthermore, this life of mine is a source of great punna. It brings benefit, goodness, and happiness not only to me, but to countless beings, humans, animals, and celestial beings alike. May you know this clearly.
The king was satisfied, but he wanted to go deeper.
Venerable Sir, may I continue this discussion with you?
Your Majesty, if we speak as wise people as Pali Pandavada, the discourse of the wise, with reason, inquiry, and mutual respect, then yes, we may continue. But if we speak as a king and a subject as Pali Rajavada, the discourse of kings with command, authority, or imposition, then I cannot engage in such discourse.
What is the difference between these two ways of speaking?
And here, Venerable Nāgasena draws a line that every student of truth needs to hear.
May you be blessed, great king. The discourse of the wise is speech rooted in reason and truth. It asks, what is right? What is wrong? What is logical? In such dialogue one may win or lose a point, but there is no clinging, no anger, no desire to dominate. The goal is clarity, not victory. The discourse of kings is when one speaks from authority. Do this, say that. Answer as I command. There is no room for inquiry, only compliance. Your Majesty, if we converse as wise ones, examining the Dhamma together, it bears fruit. If we speak as king and subject, truth cannot emerge.
Venerable Sir, I choose the way of the wise. And I beg you, do not let your heart be burdened by the thought that I am a king. Please regard me simply as a fellow human, earnestly searching for truth. Do not think, this is the king, I must be careful. If you fear my royalty, you may hesitate to speak plainly, afraid to correct me, to challenge me, to say what is real. That would defeat our very purpose. Thus I set aside my royal status here and now.
And then the king makes a point that applies to every single one of us. This principle applies to all who seek the Dhamma. When listening to teachings, never bring your status into the room. Do not think, I am wealthy, I am poor, I am important, I have done so much for you. Do not demand, you must answer as I wish because of who I am. Anyone who approaches with pride or position will never attain true understanding. Only when the mind is free from I am this, I am that can wisdom arise. Otherwise, people only say what they think will please. They dare not speak the truth because they are preoccupied with fear. Having laid down his crown, the humble seeker continued.
Now I wish to ask further questions. Venerable Sir, please be ready to listen.
Your Majesty, please speak. I am ready to hear.
Very well, I have asked. Now please answer.
I have already answered, Your Majesty.
What do you mean? How have you answered?
Great king, how did you ask?
And so the debate came to an end, just as it had begun, with an empty question, and a mind now full of wonder. It is evening, deeply moved. The king knelt before Venerable Nāgasena, offering his respects in silence. Then with bowed head and quiet steps, he left the monastery. The moment he stepped outside, he turned to his chief minister and said gently but firmly, "Go and invite Lord Nāgasena to receive alms at the royal palace tomorrow." As the king walked toward his chariot, his mind could not let go of what had just unfolded. This monk, he thought, is unlike anyone I've ever known. So extraordinarily wise, so sharp, so clear. Every question I asked, he answered as if it were nothing. I have never met such a person in all my life. And as his royal carriage rolled down the road back to the palace, the king couldn't help but whisper, then murmur, then softly exclaim again and again, "Lord Nāgasena, Nāgasena, how brilliant he is, how wise." Back at the palace, his ministers started planning.
How many bhikkhus shall we invite, Your Majesty?
Invite as many as you like.
Perhaps just Venerable Nāgasena and 10 others. It would be easier.
No, invite as many as wish to come.
Your Majesty, please, not too many. The preparation will be overwhelming.
No, invite as many as wish to come.
The next morning, the king's chief minister, Antakya, returned to the monastery not on foot, but in a royal carriage, bearing the king's formal invitation for Lord Nāgasena to receive alms at the palace. And what an astonishing sight followed. 80,000 bhikkhus set out for the royal grounds, each walking in perfect silence, alms bowls in hand. The king, ever generous, had prepared food for them all. Yet for the Dhamma discussion itself, only 10 monks along with the Venerable Nāgasena were seated in the audience hall. As the royal procession moved toward the palace, Minister Antakya rode beside the elder's palanquin, his mind burning with a question he could no longer contain.
Venerable sir, I have a deep doubt. You call yourself Nāgasena, but Nāgasena is not a living being nor a person. This troubles me greatly.
And how do you understand it, Chief Minister?
As long as there is breath going in and breath going out in this body, we say a being is alive. Just as you are alive now, we call you the name Nāgasena to this living process. That's how I see it.
Tell me, Chief Minister, when a person's breath leaves and does not return, is that person alive or dead?
If the breath coming out and never returns, then that person is truly dead.
Then what about someone blowing a trumpet, a conch, or a flute? In that moment, only air goes out, none comes in. Is that person alive or dead?
Venerable sir, I am not clever or wise. I lack understanding. I cannot reply. Please, out of compassion, explain this clearly so I may understand.
Listen well, Antakya. That in breath and out breath, what you call breath is merely wind, a natural element. It is a bodily process. But wind itself is not a living being. It is not Nāgasena, and it is not Antakya. It is just a conditioned function of the body. The true basis of what we call a life is the presence of the 5 components. Khanda, the body, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness.
What a brilliant point. The minister thought life was just the breath. But you can exhale and hold your breath and you're still you. So what is the you? Lord Nāgasena is guiding him and us away from a single thing like breath and towards seeing the process, the combination, the khandas. The name Nāgasena is just a convenient label we put on this ever-changing collection of components. Lord Nāgasena answered the king's unspoken question by simply being that teaching in action. So the minister was stuck on the breath. But Lord Nāgasena's teaching cut right through that. Let's see how it unfolded and what it really means for us. Lord Nāgasena concluded his point.
It is within these 5 components that bodily processes, including breath, arise and cease. Where the components are present, life appears. Where they dissolve, what we call death occurs.
The elder then gave a Dhamma talk so profound and clear that Minister Antakya's mind was transformed. He understood, gained deep faith, and saw the truth. His mind became bright and pure. He then formally took refuge in the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, declaring himself a lay follower. Now let's unpack what just happened. The elder's question about the trumpet player wasn't a trick. The minister thought, if breath goes out and doesn't come back in, the person must be dead. But that's not how breathing works at all. When you breathe out, that air goes into the atmosphere. It doesn't turn around and come back in. What comes in is new air. So at every single moment, the out breath never returns. It's a continuous process of new air coming in, old air going out. The minister's mistake was thinking of breath as one thing, a permanent self going in and out like a pendulum. But it's not one thing, it's a flowing, changing process sustained by the living body and mind. Venerable Nāgasena was pointing out, the breath that leaves is not the breath that enters, and neither one is you. It's just a convention to say, I am breathing. In reality, there's just a process conditioned, impersonal, and temporary. And this insight that no permanent being exists behind the name Nāgasena is what leads to freedom. So this in and out breath is what's called a bodily formation. It's a process tied to the physical body. But the elder took it even further, showing the minister that his assumption was too narrow. Not all living beings rely on breath to be alive. Consider a baby in the womb. For 9 months, it doesn't breathe air. It's alive, sustained entirely by the mother's body. Or consider those who reach the highest states of meditation, where breathing stops completely. They are profoundly alive, aware, and at peace. The Brahma God in the form realms. They do not breathe, yet they are undeniably alive. So breath is not the essence of life. It is just one function among many, happening within these 5 components. This is a massive shift in perspective. We equate breathing with being alive. But here, the teaching shows us that breathing is just one symptom of being alive. The real aliveness is the temporary, dynamic combination of body, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. The name Nāgasena is just a handy label we put on that flowing combination. When you see this directly, you stop clinging to the idea of a solid, permanent me inside. You see the process. And seeing the process is the beginning of freedom from suffering. The minister saw it and his mind was liberated. He went from confusion to clarity, from doubt to refuge. What about us? Can we look at our own experience, our breath, our thoughts, our feelings, and see them not as me or mine, but as natural, impersonal processes? That is the path Venerable Nāgasena was pointing to. So the minister found clarity, but King Milinda, ever the seeker, returns to his main question. He's not just asking about a person's name anymore. He's asking about the point of it all. The king turned back to Venerable Nāgasena, his question now sharper and deeply personal. He had already offered food to the bhikkhus, and in his royal audience hall, he had prepared a place for 10 bhikkhus alongside Lord Nāgasena for the Dhamma discussion. And now the questioning began.
Venerable Sir of such excellence, what is the supreme benefit of your going forth? What purpose does it truly serve?
It sounded similar to his previous question, but now, after their discussion, the depth was different.
Your Majesty, my going forth serves the highest purpose, to uproot the 4 great sufferings that spring from these 5 components of life. 1. The suffering of birth, the stress of coming into existence. 2. The suffering of aging, the decay of body and mind. 3. The suffering of sickness, their affliction and breaking down. 4. The suffering of death, their complete dissolution. Through this life I aim not only to end these 4, but to prevent all future suffering from ever arising again. Moreover, this is undertaken for the sake of the highest benefit, Nibbana, the perfect peace, utterly free from all craving and fear. It is the unconditioned, the deathless, the ultimate release. May you understand this clearly.
The king listened, but then he asked a very practical and perhaps skeptical follow-up.
Venerable Sir, do all who go forth do so with the same intention as you, or are their motives different?
May you be blessed, great king. Not all are the same. People undertake this life for many reasons.
Lord Nāgasena laid them out plainly. Some go forth, 4. To escape hardship, harassed by authorities or debts. 2. Out of fear of punishment, war, or danger. 3. Due to poverty with no other way to survive. 4. Due to persuasion from family or friends, without deep personal understanding. 5. For knowledge or reputation, to become a scholar or a famous teacher. 6. Out of genuine faith inspired by hearing the Dhamma. 7. And finally, to end suffering and attain Nibbana. This is the rarest and noblest intention. Lord Nāgasena elaborated with striking honesty.
Some seek closeness to kings, seeing the honor given to the Sangha. Others seek titles, respect, high seats. Some who are destitute ordain simply to receive daily food. The Sangha becomes a refuge for survival, not for awakening. Others are motivated by fear of enemies, violence or punishment. But the 7th kind, they are different. They see the sheer terror of the endless cycle, the relentless rounds of actions, defilements and their results, spinning through birth, aging, sickness and death, lifetime after lifetime. Seeing this danger clearly, they don't renounce the world for comfort or safety. They renounce it for one goal only, Nibbana.
As you can see, dear friends who seek the truth in the Dhamma, the 7th and final reason, the highest of all, is truly unique. It is this. One goes forth not because of suffering in life, but because of seeing the danger in all of samsara itself. This cycle is truly fearsome. Being spun endlessly through birth, aging, sickness, and death, driven by the 3 rounds, or vattas. 1. The round of kama, actions. 2. The round of defilements, kailasa. 3. And the round of results, vipaka. There is no final rest in this turning, unless one sees the danger clearly. This is exactly what the great disciples saw. Lords like Venerable Sariputta, Mahamoggalana, Punna Kassapa and Radha. None of them ordained because they were poor, oppressed, or broken. On the contrary, they had everything the world could offer. Take Venerable Radha for example. Once King Kauravya asked him, Venerable Sir, your hair is still black and beautiful. You come from an exalted lineage, are immensely wealthy, and enjoy the full support of your family. You suffer no persecution from the crown, so why did you go forth? The king went on. Ordinary people ordain because they've lost loved ones, face poverty, lack family support, or fear death, aging, sickness, and decline. But you, Venerable Sir, have everything: wealth, beauty, noble relatives, and royal favor. You've never been harmed or oppressed, so why did you renounce it all? Venerable Radha replied, I went forth because I saw the danger in samsara through the 4 noble truths taught by the Buddha. I saw that all beings are bound to aging, which inevitably leads to death, and that death is not the end, but the gateway to rebirth again and again. Thus the seventh reason, the highest, is to liberate oneself completely from suffering, not by escaping hardship, but by seeing through even the most perfect worldly life. Now the Buddha himself spoke of 6 kinds of people who go forth, while Lord Nāgasena described 7 type. This teaching reminds us, may all Buddhists hold deep gratitude for those who ordain, not to hide from the world but to seek nibbana with clear eyes. They become a field of punya for lay people, a source of Dhamma and a living refuge. As the Visuddhimagga so beautifully states, one who sees danger in samsara is truly called a bhikkhu. The king, reflecting on this, then turned his question directly to Venerable Nāgasena.
And Venerable Sir, why did you go forth?
Your Majesty, I ordained at the age of 7. I was too young to understand why, but as I grew, my teachers in the Sangha instructed me. Through their guidance, I came to clearly understand the Buddha's teaching. Now my sole aspiration is Nibbana, the complete peaceful release from all suffering.
Excellent, Venerable Sir. I have listened and understood. You are indeed wise.
The elder was honest. At 7, he didn't ordain from deep insight. Maybe he was drawn by the peaceful robes, or wanted to learn. And that's common. Some start with faith, but later get attached to respect, to comfort, to their position. Their initial purity fades. This is a crucial point. It's not just about how you start, it's about how you continue. Are you nourishing that initial good intention, or are you letting it get buried under new desires? Then the king asked a profound question, one that gets to the heart of existence.
Venerable Sir, do all beings who die take rebirth again?
Now pay attention. The king is asking in everyday language about beings being reborn. But Venerable Nāgasena knows that in ultimate truth, there is no permanent being that travels from life to life. There are just the 5 components, driven by causes and conditions, continuing in a new form. Yet, with great skill, he answers the king on the level the king can understand.
May you be blessed, great king. Some beings, upon death, are reborn, others are not.
This answer wasn't a guess. It wasn't saying relate to souls as eternalism, sasata ditthi, or annihilationism, nor from the speculative views of other sects, who claim, some are reborn, some vanish forever with no cause, no reason. It was rooted entirely in the law of cause and effect, of karma and defilements. Those still bound by greed, hatred and delusion, by craving and ignorance, will be reborn, shaped by their actions. But those who have fully uprooted these defilements, like the arahants, are not reborn. For them at death, the process of the 5 components ceases completely. No fuel remains for a new fire. So the answer isn't yes or no in a simple way, it's a conditional truth. Will you be reborn? That depends entirely on the state of your mind right now. On the presence or absence of craving and ignorance. If the fuel is still there, the fire will find new material. If the fuel is gone, the fire goes out, never to light again. This brings us back full circle to the very first question. What is the supreme benefit? The benefit is becoming the one for whom the answer is no. The one who is not reborn, that is Nibbana, that is the goal. So rebirth isn't a matter of fate or random chance. It's a conditioned process. And the condition is the state of our own mind, the presence or absence of defilements. The king then asked the natural next question. King Milinda, wanting it spelled out, asked,
Venerable Sir, what kind of beings are reborn, and which are not?
This is the core question for anyone wanting to understand their own future.
Your Majesty, those in whom lust, hatred, and delusion have not been fully uprooted, whose experience is still fueled by craving, will be reborn after death. But those in whom these defilements have been completely destroyed, for whom the 5 components cease without any remainder at death, they do not arise again.
It's that clear, and it's not about what you want. It's about what's still there in your mind. You can scream, I don't want to be reborn. But if craving and ignorance are still in your heart, it's like trying to stop a rolling boulder by wishing it would stop. The momentum of your own mental habits carries you forward. Even the act of suicide born from unbearable suffering doesn't end the cycle. It's an act driven by aversion and delusion, which are themselves the very fuels for rebirth. It often leads to a new birth in even greater distress. Rebirth isn't a choice, it's a consequence. Then the king, getting personal and perhaps a little daring, asked the question point blank.
Venerable Sir, when you pass away, will you be reborn or not?
Now this is where the teaching gets really subtle and profound. Lord Nāgasena did not reply, I am an arahant, so I will not be reborn. Why not? In the Buddha's teaching, it is considered a grave spiritual offense for anyone to publicly declare their own high attainments. It's called being a great thief, not because the attainment is stolen, but because making such a claim, especially a false one, steals the faith and respect of people and distorts the Dhamma. The Buddha warned that even if it's true, boasting about it is unseemly, and if it's false, it's a heinous act of deception. You see imposters even today, people claiming to be enlightened or future Buddhas, yet their lives are full of greed, pride, and the pursuit of fame and luxury. A true arahant doesn't need to tell you. Their life, simple, humble, and free, speaks for itself. There is a well-known principle found in the commentaries, particularly in the Visuddhimagga and Athasalini, and in stories like that of Bahia Darutsiriya, which states, "It is said in the ancient commentaries that if a layperson attains arahantship, they cannot continue living a household life. They must either ordain as a bhikkhu or pass away into final nibbana on within 7 days." So the elder's silence was an answer in itself. It was a lesson in humility and in the proper way of the Dhamma. The truth of one's attainment is shown through conduct, not through claims. The king asked about the elder's future, but the real question for us is about our own future. Look at your own mind. Is there greed? Is there hatred? Is there delusion, however small? If the answer is yes, then the process that leads to rebirth is still active. The path isn't about getting a guarantee from a teacher. It's about extinguishing the fires in your own heart. That is the only way to ensure the answer, for you, becomes no. I will not be reborn. So to bring it all together clearly, a layperson who genuinely attains that final liberation cannot simply stay as they are. The mind that is completely free cannot function within the binds of worldly life. They must either ordain immediately or pass away into final peace that same day. This is why when you see someone today claiming, "I am enlightened," but they keep their hair, their lifestyle, their status, and live for decades in luxury and self-promotion, you can know clearly they are not what they claim to be. They are fraudsters. To falsely claim such high attainments is considered the highest form of spiritual theft. It exploits people's faith and twists the true teaching. Genuine arahants never proclaim their attainment. They speak only of the Dhamma. Their life is their teaching. So how did Venerable Nāgasena answer the king's direct question, "Will you be reborn?"
May you be blessed, great king. If this body and mind is still bound by defilements, by lust, hatred, and delusion, then when it dissolves at death, rebirth will follow. But if all defilements have been utterly uprooted, and no clinging remains, then there is no further arising, no rebirth, no return. May your majesty understand this clearly.
Notice, the elder did not say, "I am an arahant." He did not declare, "I will not be reborn." Why? Because in the Buddha's dispensation, it is the nature of all noble beings, Arya Pugala, from stream enterers, Sotapanna, up to arahants, to never openly announce their attainments. If someone were asked, "Are you a Sotapanna?" they would not reply, "Yes, I am." They would remain silent or deflect with humility. No Arya being walks about proclaiming, "I have attained this or that stage." The only exception is the Sammasambuddha, the fully enlightened Buddha himself. It was necessary for the Buddha to declare his awakening openly, not out of pride, but so that the world might know. A Buddha has arisen. The Dhamma has been rediscovered. The path is open. This proclamation was an act of compassion, not conceit. But for disciples, whether Sotapanna, Sakadagami, Anagami, or Arahant, silence is the rule. To boast of one's purity is to taint it. And so, although Venerable Nāgasena was indeed an arahant, he spoke only in general terms. Where kilesa remains, rebirth follows. Where kilesa is gone, rebirth ends. He pointed to the Dhamma, not to himself. The king, deeply moved, responded,
Venerable Sir, your wisdom is extraordinary. All my doubts have now been dispelled.
"This is the guardrail for the path. Judge by conduct, not by claims.